God bless you. We want to welcome you here with us, Pastor and Pastor Flowers. We want to
Yes.
welcome you here to Time Apartment. We came on a little late, a couple of minutes later, but we was trying to get the other computer that we use to monitor the questions on to come up. For some reason, it started acting up.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just started acting up. So, but we're gonna wait a little while to when others come in. When others come in before we get started, but we want to welcome those who may listen to it
Yes.
after the program is over, who may
Mhm.
come around and view the video. Hopefully, and we believe that God will certainly bless us to be able to say something that will be a blessing to you. Again, what we'll do is, and soon this will be up, pretty soon, and stuff. So, um, God bless you. Good to see you.
Yes.
Um,
Shay.
Shay, yes, but I was thinking two things at the same time. Sorry, Shay, but hopefully this will come up because we monitor. Um, uh, yes,
Yes.
yes. I know. Shay, I was thinking of two things. I know her as my granddaughter. I was thinking two things at the same time.
It's Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
How you doing? I was thinking two things at the same time. I got a computer over here that you use to monitor the questions on. That's for some reason it's having a hard time logging on or logging up. And for some reason it just stopped right in the middle as we was getting ready to come on. But we want to thank God for you. We want to thank God for you coming. How you doing? Sister Giles, yes. How you doing? Thank you for joining us. We ask those who are coming on, please share it with someone that we are. How you doing, Sister Chantel? Good to see you. We thank God for you. We thank God for for having this opportunity, Pastor Flowers, to share what we believe God has given us in the way of relationships. Amen. It's starting to come up now. This is I don't know what happened. I don't know why everything was kicking. Was trying to kick off and trying to keep from coming on, but it's on and stuff. And so
Maybe it's a good program tonight.
yes, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I sure hope so. Pastor Flowers, we've been dealing over the last couple of programs dealing with because of the season that we're in, and the season doesn't end just because what we call Valentine's Day generally.
Move away from
Yes, we don't move away from it because the effects of it still goes on. People are still whether they're coming from what we call emotional hangover, where during that time of celebration.
So they're still in the honeymoon stages of Valentine's Day.
Or Pastor, the atmosphere was heightened to an expectation that hasn't been kept. Now that where people who one was made to feel that maybe things are going to turn the corner, and praise God, some really did. Some saw this holiday and the celebration of relationship. They saw it as an opportunity to get closer to their spouse. Yes, to build that hope, and they kept with it. They built from it.
And they bought gifts and things, and hopefully that we just didn't connect to the gift and not to the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because it means more. After the gift is put in the corner, after the gift catches dust, or after the gift is eaten, because some buy candies or whatever it is, and you celebrate, and that's a good thing. We're not saying, please, by no means are we saying that's not a good thing, because it is a good thing. But we've got to do more than just celebrate at specific times in relationship and the covenant that we say we have. We have to encourage it, nurture it, build on it, and stuff, and do the things that we need to do. That when we do celebrate it, we're confirming something and not always trying to awaken something or remind each other of something. And so when we do that stuff, so we want to thank God again for you, and we want to get into the program. And when we're to these last couple of weeks and going into the night and whatever afterwards. We're talking on both sides. We're not just talking to married couples, but we're talking to singles.
Everything we talk to married couples, some of the things we talk to married couples about, singles can look at it and apply it to certain areas of their life, as well as when we're talking to singles.
Absolutely.
Some areas married couples can apply it to certain areas of their life.
Absolutely. And this is when we're talking to you, we're going to talk a lot about what people who are not married but thinking about marriage, going into relationships, what they need to look for, and what the sometimes the red flags that come up that make us, if we pay attention to, will cause us to deal with our behavior, deal with our attitudes, and deal with the way we're going in those relationships. That we won't be a problem with the relationship growing. We won't be a problem to ourselves and the other person that we're in a relationship with. And again, I cannot emphasize this more. There has to be a genuine, honest heart in going in a relationship.
Yes.
You know, you might get
talk about that a little bit tonight.
Yes, You might can fool the person that you're in a relationship with, but the sad part is if you fool yourself. If you make yourself think that the relationship or you are more healthier and more structured and ready for another level than you actually are. And when you do that, the only person you really mess up or affect negatively is yourself. Okay, Pastor Flowers, if you want to get started, you can go ahead and start that, hon, or whatever you got to say. I'm trying to pull this thing up right quick because it's trying to mess up on me and stuff. Amen.
So we're going to start here. It says, a moment comes when you discover the imbalances of your relationship connection. You think that the relationship is working in balance, and then one day you look at yourself in the mirror and realize that you have lost all the things that defines a strong, healthy, and purpose-filled you. You realize you have changed, and not so much sometimes for the better.
Amen.
You look at yourself and go, what the world happened to me? I think time I wouldn't, be struggling like this. I think time I wouldn't be feeling this way. I just want to be happy. I was happy in the beginning, but then somewhere along the line, something happened. You're no longer that strong, healthy, and purpose-filled you. And honest thing you can point to is it happened after I got into this relationship, or after, some issues had happened,
And sometimes, Pastor, let me cut you off. Sometimes you awaken and you realize, wait a minute, this relationship is not like it first started.
No.
Everything that I thought we were building into it, everything that we thought we were investing has changed. Mm-hmm. All the things that we said that we thought at the beginning that was important is no longer as important, or it no longer has that influence on us anymore.
And as a single, when you start seeing the relationship change, you have to ask the question, can I live with the changes that I'm seeing?
Absolutely.
And if I'm seeing changes already, how many more changes is going to happen? And can I live with those changes?
Absolutely.
Before you put too much of yourself in there, before you put too much of your emotions in there and get really, really, really devastated when you realize, hey, I can't handle this. You done invested too much of yourself in there then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we need to be serious about what we're seeing.
Right.
Whether it be in a relationship or even in our marriages.
Exactly.
That we don't just try to push them aside and try to do special things to make us forget or not deal with the pain and frustration that sometimes these dysfunctions bring.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you see the changes, don't lie to yourself.
Absolutely.
Be honest about the changes and deal with them. Some things you can work right out.
Absolutely.
Let's look at what else it says. About maybe why you found that yourself to change. Mm-hmm. First thing it says, maybe you noticed you was giving in the relationship more than you were getting. You were giving in the relationship more than you were getting, and ended up changing you.
Absolutely.
Next thing, maybe you started to actually listen to the words that the other person was saying, and you heard actually what they were not saying.
Absolutely. One of the sad things you can do, and that's not just limited to developing relationships. Mm-hmm. This is also must include marital relationships, because after a while you can get bitter if you're in a marital relationship and you've heard us use this phrase before. If you're just carrying out a mule relationship, after a while you're gonna get burnt out.
A mule relationship is where you carry the abundance of the relationship. You're Absolutely. The carrier of the relationship.
Emotionally and spiritually and physically. Yes. You carry the weight of the relationship. You lay most of the responsibility of where that relationship goes, how healthy that relationship gets, or things that get done in a relationship is on you.
Yes.
And stuff. And if you come to a point
and
you
realize didn't do it, it wouldn't get done.
Right. Mm-hmm. If you come to a point in a relationship when you realize that, wait a minute, things are not as balanced as it used to be, and you ignore that and you keep on going, after a while you're gonna burn out. You're gonna have no connection to any change if any change is offered, and you're gonna walk at such a distance from the relationship that sometimes when people get like this in marital relationship, there's no recovery.
And single relationships.
Absolutely. But when I'm talking about when you're married and you're not paying attention to the changings and the ebb and flows, you just go on with the ebb and flow, and after a while you find yourself disconnecting. You find yourself getting burned out, and you become bitter, and no matter what is offered to change or make the relationship better, you're so burnt out that you can't recover.
And then at that point, there's so many ashes.
Absolutely.
That it's hard to, weed through it just to see, okay,
so
let's try to grab something so that we can have something to build on.
Absolutely.
The next thing, or maybe you come to the conclusion that you just deserve more.
Absolutely.
I'm better than this.
Yes.
I deserve more. I've given so much in this relationship, and I deserve better. I deserve to be treated better. I deserve to even be talked to better.
Absolutely. I like that point before the third point where it says, that leads to this, where it says, you come to a place where you start to listen exactly what's being said.
Yeah.
Not just
And what's not being
yes,
said.
you know, you listen to the things that they offer you, and you listen to the things that they refuse to offer you. One of the things I said last night in the teaching, I said, truth has to be when you open your mouth and when your mouth is not open.
Wow.
It's your body posture. It's what you show. It's what you display. It's your emotional atmosphere and attitude that only you know. And then what shows after you get finished. So if we're going to be honest and upfront with each other, we're going to listen. What we listen and what we hear from them. We're going to be responsible for it when they're brought back to us. But sometimes this awakening comes because we actually do come to a point to say, wait a minute, I'm asking them a question and answering it myself.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
I'm trying to find out if they love me and then convince myself that some behavior that they used to do proves that they still love me now. And only to realize, wait a minute,
And
I'm
when
saying
they
it and they're not responding. Go
And
ahead.
when they say yes, are they trying to convince me or are they trying to convince
Right.
themselves?
Right. Or do they really own it?
Yeah. Do they really own that yes?
Absolutely.
And and if they don't, then what's the purpose of saying the yes?
Absolutely.
What are you
So
looking
true.
for? What is your motive?
Right. So true. So true. And that's a key point what you just said. When you ask somebody or there's a challenge to prove or say that you love them and they say it in response to what? Are they saying it because that's how they actually
That's
feel?
a response,
Or
yeah.
they're just saying it in response because that's what you asked them. And that usually proves out in how they take responsibility for the growth of the relationship as well as take responsibility for what they may do that may be counterproductive to the growth of the relationship. Okay. Now I want to ask you a question before we when you say you love me, you know, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Explain that so everybody can hear you and stuff. And say it with feeling. If you want to sing it to me, you can.
Oh my God. When I say I love you, I love you, not just Anthony. I love all of you. I love who you are to me. I love who you are to yourself.
Hold up, because you just hit a key. You hit a key because that can prove a lot of lack in a relationship when that is not there. Because if you say you love
who you are to me,
right,
and who you are to
myself,
yourself. Yeah.
And sometimes what happens is, Pastor Flowers, is that we have relationships that are built off of people that just need you to love them, but they can't love themselves.
Wow.
So you have this incomplete circle, and you don't know why it's complete. And sometimes it's incomplete is because you're loving a person that has no sound for themselves. They have no relationship with themselves and stuff. And if I can't love me, if I can't love me, I can't reciprocate love from me to her.
Exactly.
So it's just as important. Just as
love
important.
your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yes.
If you can't love yourself, then how can you love your neighbor?
Absolutely. So it's just as important that you develop a healthy understanding of who you are, so you know what you're giving to the other person, and then you can explain what you're giving to the other person. Sometimes singles, when you're talking to each other and you're trying to discover who that person is, or at least try to get them to explain who they are, and they can't, it's because they haven't cultivated a relationship with themselves.
And they haven't been able to connect with you because they can't connect with yourself.
Absolutely.
So they're just hitting in the wind. Maybe she'll like this, or maybe he'll like this here, because you really can't connect to find out exactly what they really need.
Absolutely.
And so you can't meet their needs.
Absolutely. It change. You kept saying because it changes.
Yeah.
It changes when people are not consistent with themselves and who they are. Their needs and their definitions will always change because it has to change for the mood, not for who they are, not for the makeup, not for the purpose, not for the design, but what the moment demands them to be. And whatever that moment demands them to be, what the need is demands them to be, that's what you'll reach. And that will always change because they won't ever be able to discover who they are. Amen? Okay.
Is it? Did I answer the question?
Yeah. Oh, did you get some more?
Well, you have to be able to love the body, soul, and spirit of that person. Of course, the package, the mind, the
Absolutely.
will,
Absolutely.
the emotions, the intellect, the spirit of that person, the human spirit of that person, and the bend that they have towards God. Love it all.
And that takes time because sometimes this is discovered as we go along. That there are some things in that person that you will find out that sometimes they may not be as finished as you may want, or even as they may want. But if you love the whole person, the total package that you're getting, your patience won't run out when that person is trying to fine tune some things that are fit in what makes you all have a relationship.
And plus, it helps you. It makes it easier to be proud of that person.
Absolutely.
And to be able to support them in their areas and in their dreams and things because you love them.
Absolutely. Well, you know, when I say
except when you talk about singing.
What? Huh?
No, we ain't going there.
Well, now tell me what's wrong. See,
Road.
you know what? See, I wouldn't. See, if you hadn't started that, it wouldn't remind me that I had said that I may break out.
And see, love tells you the truth.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, stay in the calling.
But see, it may not fit. You know what I mean?
It fits.
No, it may not fit. Now, see, I wasn't gonna sing. I wasn't gonna sing, but I may break out in a song in a few minutes. But I'm not gonna start now because I don't want people to be writing down Apostle, do you know this song? Can you sing that?
Oh my God!
You know this song?
Don't do that,
so we're not gonna. I'm not gonna.
Do not do that.
So, cause see now, look, see, Chantel's already trying to get a request. I see what she's trying to do. So no, don't start sending requests because I'm not gonna debut on this program tonight, unless I get moved by the Lord to do so. Okay.
Okay, read on.
Yes, sir.
Another reason. Sometimes you can get so distracted by what you're hoping to get from what you're giving that you ignore how many different areas in your life that this behavior has put into your financial problems and or into emotional and spiritual neglect. You don't realize how much this relationship has affected you.
Absolutely. I want to say hi to Bishop Norman Hutchins who tuned in to us. Pastor
Oh,
Fries, you've been knowing him for a long while. We know him from good. God bless you. He probably tuned in because he heard me talk about debut by singing.
No,
and he probably want to sign me up.
No, we ain't doing that.
Pastor Fries, I think sometimes what we miss because we're so busy trying to develop something that makes us feel comfortable that we forget that some of the issues that we have not dealt with affects everything in our life. There are people who are bad at their finances because they're bad at disciplining their own emotions.
Yeah.
When you can't discipline your own emotions, you make bad decisions with your finances and just about everything else. And stuff. So believers need to understand, especially those who are getting ready to get married, that you don't just jump in. There you go, Tony.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Yes. How you doing, Bishop? Yes. They're believers. They're gonna get married.
Right.
And stuff, and they date it, and they know how to say all the things that fit
all
emotional
the right
health.
things.
But they won't deal with the things that's going to make them financially poor because they're not disciplined.
But see, that's
in
a
the things
part of
that
slowfulness.
Absolutely.
You know what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
You know you need to discipline yourself in all areas, not just the
Absolutely.
finances, but in all areas
Absolutely.
to make yourself ready for a relationship. And you're always putting off to tomorrow what you know you should be doing today.
And you won't do it.
And you won't do it. And then there's always somebody that's believing that you're going to do it, but you know you're not going to do it.
Absolutely. So it takes more than just us knowing. And let's be honest, it takes us more than if you're going to have a healthy relationship. It takes more than just knowing how you're physically compatible. And let me say something else too. And I hope nobody will jump on this and think this is being antichrist. It takes more than you just knowing how to go to church.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of bad marriages in church.
Yes.
People are going to church.
But they know how to put the church face on.
They know how to put the church face on. Mm-hmm. So it's more than just you knowing how to go to church. It's more than just finding.
You got to live outside the church.
Yes. It's more than just finding someone who's saved. Now, you should be on one accord. I don't disagree with that. I'm not pushing that down. It's more than just being on one accord in the church. You need to be on one accord when you leave the church.
That's right.
Because when you're in the church, one can hear a message that demands you to deal with your attitude, and another may hear the message that only you're the one that's supposed to deal with your attitude. Mm-hmm. They don't think it applies to them. They don't think, they can go to counseling.
No, they talked to my spouse today. They didn't talk to me. Boy, they really got them told.
Absolutely.
When in actuality, it was talk to both of us.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So it's more than just being on one accord when you're sitting in the pews. You have to be one accord that leads you to the altar and what you do after you come from that altar.
Yes.
Amen. Okay.
Okay. The sad thing about this stage is that many married and single people, give me a minute. Oh, I hit it too many times. Okay. Will not come to their senses until after they have experienced a great loss of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that now listen, we're not just talking about finances. We're talking about when you lose the grip of where your relationship and marriage is going to. And a lot of people don't get afraid of what they've done to the relationship until they realize that they lost grips of where it's going. They lost the ideal of what it means. They lost the flavor and atmosphere that they used to come to. And sad thing about this is that sometimes we need to realize, those who are single and going to try to develop a relationship that may lead to marriage need to realize that if you're dating at a dating stage and your relationship loses grip that easy, that quickly, and at that stage, You need to back up and evaluate if this is something that you want to go into.
That's true.
Because you should be that distracted trying to win something. We put our best foot forward when we're trying to win something.
Amen.
When we're trying to prove something, we put our best efforts forward.
Yeah.
And if your efforts can be seduced or if it can be watered down at the dating stage, there are other more issues involved than just mere distraction.
Yeah.
There were things that they came in with in this relationship that they did not deal with, that they were not honest with, they were not genuine with and stuff. And the last thing you need to do is build a relationship that all of a sudden surprises come up that prove that somebody wasn't honest and somebody wasn't coming forefront when they deal with their relationships. Okay.
Even still, only a few will come to the understanding that no relationship is worth being spiritually, emotionally, physically, and financially bankrupt over.
Absolutely.
Still trying to hold on, even though you know the whole relationship has been flushed down the toilet.
Absolutely.
You're still trying to hold on
Absolutely.
to it.
Now,
Maybe talk to singles here.
Absolutely. You hear those keys.
Yeah.
And let's get those keys one at a time. First of all, spiritually. You don't need to advance in a relationship that God needs to have some say-so in. When he can't have a say-so in your life while you're an individual. If God can't get your attention now, he certainly is not going to be able to get your attention towards a spouse who you think at times you may think that you have a better opinion than they do. So you need to hold up then and be healthy enough spiritually to be able to hear God to convict your heart and bring you to a place of reason with your spouse. Secondly, if you're poor steward of finances, you don't need to take on another person in your life because the only thing they're going to be your banker. They're going to be your backer. You're gonna expect them to help to bail you out of undisciplined behavior that you repeat over and over and over again. Thirdly, if you're a person of poor steward of your health, you're not taking responsibility to get yourself in a healthy place, whether it be eating well, whether it be exercising, whether it be doing the things that bring yourself to a healthy place.
That's what we're working on.
Absolutely. I said this to a couple of members at one time, a while back. I said, look, you want God to use you, and you want to gain some positions in this church. And I said to them, I said, why should I put you in a position that you're not treating yourself or treating your life to live through them? If you're not carrying your life out in a way that you want to live at a good long life, live healthy and stuff, why would you go into a marriage and then marry a caretaker? Somebody has to take care of you because you're not doing what you need to do to take responsibility for yourself. And that even means, Pastor Flowers, and I'm gonna slow down a little bit. That even means, if you got medicine, take it. Take it until God heals you. Take it until God. You need to live your life like you want to enjoy your life with somebody that you want to enjoy and they want to enjoy you too. All these things must be taken in place. Spiritually, you need to have a prayer life because you need to know what the enemy is trying to do against your marital relationship. You need a prayer life. Not just when things get bad, not because you want God to get your husband or get your wife. You need to have a prayer life so he can get you.
Get us.
Get you in order and stuff. So that prayer life needs to be in place. You need to show that you're committed to something. Enemy should be able to shake your faith every time he brings something about. Because you know why? You're gonna do the same thing in your marriage. You're gonna do the same thing in your relationship. Whenever conflict comes, you're gonna quit. I quit. I'm through. Hey, this can't be God because look like all hell breaking loose every time we try to go towards the altar.
It's nothing worse than being married or in a relationship with a quitter.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know from day to day which way you're going.
Absolutely.
Because today you may be going 100 miles an hour heading towards the altar, everything on point, you there. Or if you're in a married relationship, we're going in the same direction, everything, and then the next day, lo and behold, it's just like them took a detour.
Yeah. And that's the worst thing for the health of any relationship when you have someone in it that cannot keep their position.
And you're trying to get them back on the road.
Absolutely.
Come on, and they're arguing with you about which way to turn and getting back on the road. And you're saying you're wearing yourself out.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay. An unwillingness to be open-minded in your relationship communication. This is the section we're talking about now.
Absolutely.
As humans, we are constantly communicating, whether verbally or non-verbally, intentionally or unintentionally. Communicating is simply the process by which information is being exchanged. So being conscious of what information you're sharing and how you interpret it. The information that your spouse or potential is sharing is crucial to how we learn each other.
Now listen to this. There are some couples who will sit and they will have a heavy discussion. One will begin to make faces, change body postures, and the other person who's watching them, and they're trying to communicate, either communicate to them or communicate to what they're seeing or ask them what's wrong. The person who's having the body postures or making the movements will respond, nothing. And then they'll say something's wrong, and then the other one will retort back, no, nothing's wrong. Why would you say something's wrong? And they look at him and say, because you look like something's wrong. And then the other one will retort back, but I didn't say anything. Because too many in the body of Christ, especially in relationships, don't know that you communicate.
You're communicating
through your actions, through your facial expressions, and it says something.
and by the things you do.
Absolutely.
But you know the old cliche, actions speak louder than words. It's true.
And many times they do, and often they speak at the same value. But we like to say to our spouses, to the ones we have a discussion with, there's nothing wrong. Where our body is going through different things. We lie to them because something is causing you to have that response, and you're communicating something. Whether it's cognitive, whether you're aware of it or not, it's communicating something. Either your body or something you discuss with yourself in frustration that you have not discussed with them. It's coming out in your behavior. It's coming out in your facial expressions.
And no matter how much your mouth said, "Oh, nothing,"
right?
Well, I'm okay. Well,
absolutely.
No, that's all right. Don't worry about it. Oh, I'm not. I didn't even think about it. I'm not worried about it. But you're saying that, but your body language and everything everything else is saying you are worried about it. Absolutely. It did bother you. Why don't you put it on the table and talk about it? Because if you bury it, it's going to wear away at you and the relationship.
These things, these kind of behaviors that are never discussed and never take responsibility for, changes the rules of communication.
Yes, it does.
And sometimes people don't realize that when you go into a discussion after this, why that person doesn't seem to dive in or doesn't say much, and then they say, well, the reason why I don't, because every time I explain myself, it seems like you get frustrated. And then you say, I'm not really frustrated, I'm trying to understand. Well, then if your reaction to understanding is not clear to them, they will be more clear about what you don't understand. That's and right. Let them bring it out more clearer. That's if you're frustrated about something they say, also be responsible for that too. Don't just let it go by and say, or you have an expression that shows that you're wore out or that you don't want to hear anymore. Don't just leave them at that. And when they ask you what's wrong, tell them exactly what's going on. Even if you have to tell them, yes, even if it's telling them, I'm tired of listening. Mm-hmm. But be honest about it.
Yeah, but don't wait till you're ready to explode.
Absolutely.
Because when you're ready to explode, you do not have the spirit of reasoning. You know, absolutely. The Bible said, come, let us reason together. Absolutely. When you're ready to explode and you just came to the point that you buried it enough, now you're a ticking time bomb, and now you explode everything. That's not fair to them.
Absolutely.
Because when it happened, you should have asked for a summit, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Ask for a time when we can sit down and talk. Pray before you talk.
Absolutely.
And ask the Lord to let the spirit of reasoning come in the midst of that conversation.
Absolutely.
So you can get something done. But
Absolutely.
holding it in and trying to act like Mr. Big Pants or Miss Big Pants or whatever, I can handle this, I can carry this here, and really you can't carry that, and you know you can't carry that, Absolutely. And it hurts and it bothers you. Need to find a time where you can sit down Absolutely. And talk it over and get some kind of solution before that thing takes you out.
And if this is the attitude or position that singles who are trying to develop a relationship is, then this proves you're not ready to move to any other level. It may even prove that you're not ready for a relationship. Because if it's easy for you to withhold information that makes a relationship healthy at this stage, it will be easier for you to hold it back later. And then the relationship goes in limping and don't know why. It's because there was information that would have made you healthy and help carrying the weight of the relationship that you did not tell when the relationship was developing. So we need to look at these things and say, it's not just a mere idea. And we're going to say this a little later. It's not just a mere fact of, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to cause problems.
Yeah.
You not say anything cause problems.
Yes, it does.
And then the expressions and the responses that is shown on your face in the atmosphere of the conversation shows that there's something wrong and that you won't bring it up. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing sometimes, Pastor Flowers, is somebody say you're over the top when you say that is. If you can say nothing is wrong when it is, can't that be said you're lying?
Yes.
Then if you continue to do that, that makes you a liar. So if that makes you a liar, then what position are you in when it comes for us touching, agreeing, and praying and seeing the face of God or the grace of God when all through this process all we did was lie? Mm-hmm. Great language.
Now, there's a question. What if you're in that situation and you're not wanting to talk and and you feel like the question here is, what's the use? It's not going to help anyway, so why talk about it? Just bury it. We've tried to talk about things like this before, and it always leads to a big explosion and a whole bunch of stuff being said. So when it happens, I just bury it. What's the use even trying to talk about it?
One of the worst things you can do is quit on what you need. And I know that there are some out there.
Never quit on what you need.
No, there are some people out there. We're going to talk about this. So I'm going to just throw this word out there. There are people out there that call they're antisocial people, and what they do is
Antisocial.
antisocial. They use different tactics to make you be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to get into anything deep. They don't want to. You don't want you to discover them at places where they're weak at, or they don't want you to make. They don't want you to make them responsible for things that they're not ready to be responsible, even if it's necessary for the relationship.
Yes.
But the thing about this is this: if you want me to have a relationship with you, then you give me what I need to feel safe in that relationship with you. So that means you can explode all you want and stuff, and I'll let you have your cooling down moments and stuff. I won't push you when I find out that you're exploding and stuff. But I'm going to come back to this because this is something that I need, and you never quit on what you need. And if that person cares about you, and there's a tagline that you need to have, if you care about me, you'll answer the things that I care about.
Exactly.
And we said this about 3 or 4 weeks ago. If you want her to change the questions, if you want him to change the question, then answer the subject.
Answer the subject.
If you answer it, they'll change it. They'll change the question.
Yeah.
But as long as you use tactics that derail or tactics that cause the person or try to cause the person to go another direction, they're going to come back to it because it's a necessity for them. It's a necessity for them to carry on that relationship and trust you.
An unasked question will actually haunt you.
Absolutely.
Even while you're asleep, you still have that question in your spirit, and you didn't answer it. It'll actually haunt you.
Absolutely. And in a marital relationship,
Yes.
if you don't answer the question, the enemy will.
Don't ask. Oh yeah.
The enemy will answer. He'll answer that question.
Yeah. If you don't ask the question, you'll be haunted by the question. Wondering and all kinds of scenarios up there. And if the one that you're asking the question from don't answer it, the enemy will.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Absolutely. So we need to be forefront in not just saying, I know that God has brought this person into my life, and I know that God has designed us to get married. I believed it. I really believed it, that God has put us to get married. But there's some things I need to ask some questions about. But if I ask them, yes, if I ask them, and I want you to hear me real good on this point, if I ask them, they may get upset, or every time I bring it up, they get frustrated. They seem not to want to talk to me anymore. Then here's the key thing: if what's in your heart doesn't concern them enough to submit to you, they may not be yours.
Wow.
They may not be yours.
You don't want to face that.
No, don't want to think.
If you got to be fearful to talk to them, fearful to ask them questions, you really, really, really need to consider whether or not you and that person are a good pair.
Absolutely. I was just reading that question down there. But the thing is, that kind of threw me up. But that's a good question. The sad part about it is, though, Pastor Flowers, is that there are too many in relationships that will give up what they feel to feel good in a relationship. And that relationship will never reciprocate because the person in you will never be complete enough or open enough for you to get all the way into their life. And so you should require, especially those who are single, you should require more of an answer and responsibility from someone. And here's the scary part about it is, if they continue to explode when you try to make them responsible for the things that you need, you may be dealing with someone that has an anger problem.
Wow, that's true.
So because questions from the heart that tries to reach the heart shouldn't make someone so angry with you that they become that they become verbally or even physically violent. No one should. You're sitting in a place and you're having a good conversation, and all of a sudden a hot button question comes up, and this person, all they want to do is run, close the door, shut the door, and stop talking to you. You need to realize, wait a minute. If the feelings of my heart doesn't touch your heart, then how can I conclude
you say you love
that you're
me?
right? How can I conclude that you're the one? Because everyone that God sends, they have a heart and a passion, even if they have to grow to it, to deal with the needs that's in the heart of the person that God has sent them to. If they can't get to that place, if God can't nurture, if you can sit here and cry, and you're broken over something that I could have answered or dealt with, and it doesn't bother me, there's either seriously something wrong with me, or seriously I'm not the one.
Seriously wrong.
Either one or two. Seriously not the one. I saw the question come up, and we've talked about this before. We should never have to hide anything from each other.
No.
We should never have to hide anything from each other. If we have to hide something from even the question of what we have to hide, helping our children, helping our children when they get in trouble and stuff. We always have to question that person. That is, do you question my judgment? And if you don't question my judgment, do you question my love towards whether it be my children or whether it be a family member that we've talked about, to help. And that's another thing. We should never hide from each other. We should always be able to share with one another. There's a loved one in some trouble, and we need to be able to, we want to help them and be able to help them and stuff.
And you should be able to, sit down and talk about it. Say, this is my feelings. I feel that we should help.
Absolutely.
And the other person may say, well, I feel we shouldn't help. And you sit down and you have your summit and you reason out why you feel you should help or why you feel you shouldn't help.
Absolutely.
And then come together on that. And then once you come together on that, you can move forward in that without feeling guilty about whatever it was that you did or
Absolutely.
that you did not do.
Absolutely. And that's the most important thing, that the enemy won't be able to use anything that you kept later,
Exactly.
that you did not reveal, and then it brings it up later, and the other person feel betrayed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're going to feel betrayed.
You don't want to do that because that's detrimental to your marital relationship. And secondly, even in single relationships, things that you know you're doing that would not be acceptable to you, but you're doing it because you don't want to hurt them. And I want you to hear what I'm saying. The things, if it was done by them, it would hurt you or offend you. But you do it and don't tell them because you don't want to hurt them. That's deception.
Yes.
If it's anything that you're doing that you wouldn't want the other one to do because it would offend you, you shouldn't be doing it either.
Exactly.
Amen? All right.
Okay, next it says, of course there is room for error and much error. In fact, when there is a lot of dishonesty in our communicating with each other, as well as being closed-minded to the feelings and thoughts of each other, there's a problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we hear about being open-mindedness, I think we take it a little bit too far, especially when we're dealing with relationships. The only thing that actually mean is you got to always leave room for the other person's opinion.
Yeah.
It's not, that doesn't mean you're agreeing. It just means that you have, at least you set the platform to have a discussion.
You respect the fact that they have an opinion.
Absolutely.
And even in our counseling sessions, sometimes we realize, there's a problem there.
Absolutely.
Let that person. I know in some of the sessions we have this little whatnot, and as long as this person is holding that whatnot, the other person has to sit there and listen at what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Because many times in the counseling sessions, they both want to talk over top of each other to get their point across to make their case, so to speak. But when that one person is talking, then you have to actively listen. Not just hear it, but you have to actively be listening at what they're saying.
Absolutely.
So it can sink in.
Absolutely.
And maybe somewhere inside, empathy may step in.
Absolutely.
Maybe somewhere inside you will hear them, even though you haven't heard them for a year, and they've been saying the same thing, but then when you get in counseling, and with the right coaching, you can actually hear one another.
Absolutely. And you know what? In that discussion, in those discussions, when you're listening and paying attention, you may find yourself.
You may find
You may actually find yourself,
Yeah.
or at least you may find a place where you can connect and then work from there.
Yes.
But when you're not paying attention, when you're not actively paying attention, you don't find anything that you can connect with. You just want them to hurry up and get finished. You'll never get to a place. You'll never get to a place whatever level the relationship goes to, where you'll ever be able to discuss things and move on. You'll just quit because discussions don't go anywhere. You'll just get to a place and the discussion gets heavy. It gets difficult. Yes, the person closes out. Yes, God bless you. Closes out on you, and you just quit. Amen. Okay. Let's do this. I see another question came up before we go on here. It says, Mary said that I'm never questioned, and he would never get mad. He just knows how I struggle to pay my mortgage. And let me see this. Hold on just for a second, y'all.
Just a minute.
And I help when I don't have it. I never question him. Okay, I'm losing some. Okay, you don't tell your other half that you give money to your grown children. Is that a lie? And it goes on. She says, I am never questioned, and he would never get mad. Okay, it's not a lie if he doesn't ask you, but it's not good to not tell him.
It is a lie if you and him have discussed it
before. Yes,
and you came
but
to
they
an
have
agreement about
right.
it, and he find out later on, or you find it later on, that
Right.
in spite of what you all agreed to here in the house,
Right.
you're going against the wishes of the house.
Right, and you have to also kind of question yourself a little bit and say, why haven't I shared this with him? Do you feel guilty, or do you feel? And I'm not saying you do. I'm just throwing some things out here. Do you feel guilty? Do you feel apprehensive, or do you feel, because I know her, and she likes to help people, and she likes to reach out there and stuff, and her husband may not disagree, but her caution and not desire to help people may think, well, if I do say something to them, will they have a problem with it? And they may not have ever expressed a problem with it, and they may not. But when people have this open heart, where they're just there, they're always their fear. One of their fears is that somehow their ability to help people is stopped or not or enabled, and whether it be someone else says anything or whether it be where something comes up in her life that she can't do it anymore and stuff or whatever. But the thing, when you're dealing with a marriage, we never want to not share when we're taking something from the house and giving it to another person. And it doesn't make a difference how the person that you may be helping may have been an awesome help to you at times in the past, and that's good. That just shows a reciprocal relationship here. But you still want to be able to share that with your spouse and stuff, and so you can always be on the same page. So it's not a lie, but it's not good, And when I say it's not good, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just saying it could be better by just sharing it with them. And they may not have a problem, they may not have a conflict with it and stuff. But sometimes we have to set our own fears aside, and stuff, and be able to share with one another something that may be approved by the other person anyway. So.
But just what if you don't ask because you know it's not going to be approved?
Well, and that's one of the things I kind of slipped in there is that sometimes we don't ask. This may not be the case here, but sometimes we don't ask because sometimes we don't ask because. Sometimes we don't ask because we think that the person may not approve of it and stuff, and that means we haven't given them the chance. We haven't given them a chance to even learn them to find out. Their heart may be like yours. They may have no problem. They may have a outreaching heart, and they may watch you, or they may have this. The person that you're helping may have already shared with them. I thank God for how your husband or wife has come by and did something when I was in trouble. They blessed me. They may have already known it, but the reason why they didn't share it with you because they may feel that you're uncomfortable because you didn't share it with them for them to bring it up to you. So sometimes it's just a mere bridge of communication. Just saying, I did this for someone that was in some trouble and stuff. And most husbands that marry good people who have good hearts themselves and stuff. And we sometimes got to be able to experience that by sharing with them some things that our heart has led us to do. And will that be sometimes, as the question that you asked, will there be sometimes that some people get in a marriage with someone that if you ask them, can you help somebody, they don't want to help them? Yes. There are some husbands and wives, they don't want to help nobody. They don't want to share nobody. There are some husbands and wives, and this is another thing you got to understand. There are some husbands and wives that don't want to pay tithes. They don't want to give offerings to the church. They don't want to do anything to sow into the church. They want everything to go in their pocket, in their home. They're wasters. The last thing you want to do is marry someone that does not respect and understand kingdom finances.
Yes.
And stuff, because they will stingy you into the poorhouse. So you want to also understand that. But yes, the key thing is I think we need to always share with them, because most times good people marry good people with good hearts who like to share that they don't mind.
And ladies, it's something that you definitely have to watch. Let's say, and men, you work your life building your finances, keeping your credit score together, getting yourself to a position, and then you marry somebody who don't understand kingdom finances, and the next thing you know, you're always struggling.
Yes.
You're losing this. You're not being able to answer the phone, and you think to yourself, man, I wouldn't like that. What the world is going on here?
Absolutely.
Because you married somebody who don't understand kingdom finances.
Absolutely.
And when you don't understand kingdom finances, you can bring a curse upon your own finances.
Absolutely. And if a person doesn't fear God enough to not sow into the kingdom, they ain't gonna fear your beer collectors. He'll come home and stuff, and you'll be walking in the dark with candles. He'll talk about it's a candlelight dinner. Ain't no candlelight dinner. Those lights don't come on. So you want to make sure that you have someone that is on the same page you're on about how to be blessed and how to take care of your family. Amen. Okay.
Here are the key ways in which bad communication manifests and how to stop it from happening. Number one, set in your ways. You might not like to admit it, but even the best of us are at least a little bit set in our ways, which is the nice way of trying to say stubborn. A lot of people think that reasoning and collaborating, working together on a common enterprise or project, joining forces, is a huge factor in successful relationships, and it is. But you cannot arrive at the true reasoning and collaboration without first approaching your partner with an open heart and mind and ready to really work together.
Pastor Flowers, Um, when we first met, we were both single.
Yeah.
We were both single. She wasn't married, and I wasn't married.
Single and saved.
Single and saved. We both, neither one was married. But in order for us to be married, we not only had to do the vows, we had to change some mentalities.
Oh yeah.
Because marriage doesn't mean we think single, we act single. We can still be individuals, but we're not single. Our thoughts should always envelop or be considered of the person that we're married to. The problem that happens so many times when single people are trying to melt a relationship together that is healthy for both people is that they can't leave their single mentality. They're used to doing something. They're used to doing things for themselves. And I'm not saying there's some things that everything you have to give up, but there's some things that you have to release a single mentality, and learn to consider that you're now connected with somebody else. And you just can't act like you're single. You can't communicate like you're single. You can't relate like you're single. You can't. A single woman who used to go and just deeply hug everybody when she was in church when she was single. You can't do that once you get married. A man who was single who deeply hugged everybody when it was in church. You can't hug the same way when you're married and you were single. And this had nothing to do with people's mentality. And it has something to do with the impression that it gives.
The person that you
yes.
now in a relationship
Most
with.
definitely. And that's just some small things. But there's just different things that you don't do as a married person that you did as a single. So why not practice those things so you can start to unpeel what it looks like that you look like when you were single, that you will look like when you're married. You know, you make some decisions about your finances when you were single that you can't do when you're married. You can't make there's some sacrifices that we made as singles. That once we're married, we can't make those kind of sacrifices that feed into us. We have to consider that there's someone else involved in this. And my finances are just not my finances.
No.
There are finances now because they go into a corporate working of a marital relationship and a home. Yes, sir.
Just what if you find, and we found this here, there are some people who feel like, I shouldn't have to change just because I got married. But there are some things that they do have to change.
Absolutely.
But they fight hard because this is how I was. This is a familiar place for me. I'm comfortable here. My attitude is comfortable here. Why should I have to change simply because I got married?
Because you got married. Because there's someone else now. Before you were married, things that you did mainly impacted you. When you bought a home, it impacted you because you were the only one in the house.
Exactly.
If you had a child, it impacted you and your child. Now when you do things that you bring home and you're married, it doesn't just impact you. It impacts you and your child and your home and your marriage. It impacts everybody in their home and stuff. It doesn't make a difference how strong you feel about it if you don't have any consideration about the one that you're going to marry. Even at the stage of developing a relationship, if you can't redesign your thinking pattern there, you're not ready for marriage.
Exactly.
And the reason why many marital people who are having problems and challenges can't seem to solve those problems is because they keep having a single mentality. You know you made a covenant of marriage with someone else, but your thinking hasn't changed. Your consideration hasn't changed. The things that you do now, you think it just limits to you who a decision maker, and it doesn't. Yes, baby.
And many times they will change during the fiance stage.
Yes.
When you're engaged stage, you'll change.
Yes.
But then once you get married, all of a sudden you fall all the way back.
Absolutely.
To what you used to do. Now, if you change to get them, you're going to have to stay changed to keep them.
Absolutely. 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 Once you get into a serious relationship, everything that points towards that you're a part of that relationship should start to testify in your life. There are things, I can't spend 17 hours of a 24-hour day with my friends.
Amen.
When I'm getting ready to get married.
That's right.
I can't be on the phone 17 hours of a 24-hour with my girls. I can't be texting them, talking about this and that. I can't do that because if I'm just feeding into them, who's feeding into my relationship? Who's feeding into my connection and my identity between each other in this relationship? Some of those things have to change. People can't call you when you're married or you're trying to get into a serious relationship at the last hour and say, girl, I saw this sale down there at the mall. We need to run on down there. Wait a minute. I'm planning for more than what I'm going to wear on next week's whatever. I'm planning for a future that's going to involve decisions that's going to be made by my potential that we're serious about in going into a marriage. And especially if you're married, I can't just make plans on a whim when it may affect what my husband or what my wife or what we do for tomorrow. So there's mentalities have to change.
Yes, it is.
There are decision-making processes that has to change. Husbands, wives, somebody may ask you something and it may seem like an emergency to them. But sometimes you have to tell them, slow down, because their emotions will call on you to do an emergency thing, to make it an emergency, when it's their emotions that have made it an emergency, and it may not be all that. But no matter if it is an emergency, if it's not life-threatening and stuff, you need to be able to talk to your spouse about the decision that you're going to make that's going to come back home.
We always say this thing, never let someone's poor planning become your emergency.
Absolutely.
Never let somebody's poor planning become your emergency. We got to talk things over.
Absolutely.
And remember too, we're not single.
No. No, you got somebody. You're gonna take $20, $40, or $100 out of your budget that you both had planned, and then you haven't discussed that with them, and now you take that money home. You set it at the table. I know we're talking a lot about money, but this is never. You can use this for anything. You take that money home, and you've already set out a budget, including that $100 that's gonna help pay things that you can live comfortably for the next week. You bring it home, and you say, and your wife or husband starts counting, and they realize, it's $100 missing here. And you say, oh man, I forgot to tell you. I was going by somewhere and stuff, and my cousin, uncle, nephew, sister, brother on the second side of the first, whatever, asked me if they could borrow $100 from me and stuff because they was having some problems and stuff. And you said, what was the problem? Well, the transmission was going, they needed $100 to go in there, and said, so that wasn't life threatening. You couldn't call me to let me know that this is a decision that was being asked you to make and stuff.
Or else we can look at one another and say, well, I knew you wouldn't mind, so I went on and did this. And I do it too many times, it's going to make you feel just like I'm taking you for granted.
Right.
I constantly take for granted all the time. If I constantly took for granted all the time that, I know he's not going to mind, I'm going to go ahead and do this here. I need to get on the telephone and let him have a voice in that
Absolutely.
thing. Let him be able to say, you know what? I didn't mind yesterday, but today I want to spend some time with you.
Right. Absolutely.
I didn't mind way back then, but we need to slow down because now we're trying to buy a house.
Absolutely.
I didn't mind way back then, but right now we need to slow down because you need another car, or we need to have tires on the car. So we can never take for granted, because we have nice spouses, because we have spouses that are filled with empathy, because we have somebody that want to help in all situations. We can't just take for granted, well, I'll just do this here because I know how he is, or I just do this here because I know how she is. Because eventually you will make that person feel like you are taking them for granted.
Absolutely.
Bring them in on it. Hear their voice. Hear what they got to say about it.
Absolutely. And plus, don't try to manipulate your spouse with their kindness.
Yeah.
Off that word, I know you wouldn't mind.
I know you wouldn't mind.
And they may not.
But I would have liked for you to call.
But don't
say something.
Right. Don't use it as a tool to disregard their opinion.
Yeah.
And the other part is, and it's not always the case, they may mind.
Yeah.
They may not want you to do that, like you were saying.
And
they may not want you to spend that overtime. They may not want you to stay that overnight.
That's what I was going to say. And all the time it's not money. Sometimes it's just time. So I knew you wouldn't have mind, so I ran by and I checked on such and such. But she or either he had something else planned, or she had a special dinner planned.
Absolutely. And
you needed and was looking for you to be home at 5:30, but you didn't roll into 7:30, so the mood is gone.
Absolutely.
The food is probably dried up and everything, so don't take it for granted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And singles, getting back to the singles, if you're gonna have a healthy relationship, it's gonna need time to discover. Yes. Now I can understand you have to work and you have to pay bills, and you should. But you don't want to go into a relationship and you're a workaholic. That means you haven't really spent the time to say I do. You haven't spent the time that I do is real. You just know that you like this person, you spend some time, and you know it should go to marriage. God has really told you this is the person. But you need to develop too. Not just a relationship develop to the season or the time or the date that you say you're going to get married, but you need to develop into the relationship. Not just develop to the marriage, but you need to develop in the relationship. So it means you need to spend some time. I'm not saying that your bills go, but you need to take as much time as you need to make sure that even when conflicts come, you know you made the right decision.
That's right.
And you know enough to be able to deal with each other in a reasoning, collaborating way that whatever comes, you can deal with it. And you don't be turned to be enemies with one another because you haven't learned enough about one another. You haven't learned enough about yourself with this person. And then all of a sudden these things come and you don't know how to deal with it. So we need to spend the time that we need to spend to be honest with ourselves And so when we're honest with ourselves, we can be honest with them, and we will require them to be honest.
Yes.
And most important, don't take each other for granted. We were saying that when we were saying about, well, I know you wouldn't mind. No,
Yeah.
no, don't take the time that you owe me for granted. That you can just
Yeah,
lend
like
it
that.
and suffer for me to accept it.
like
That's
that.
my time. I need that time to know you. I need that time to understand you. I need that time to nurture you. We made some promises to honor, love, cherish, and all that stuff. If you keep giving your time away, if you keep giving my time away
Exactly.
to invest those things, I can't do
Exactly.
those things. So I need those time. Don't give my time away. Let me have it. And if you want to lend it somewhere, ask me. That's
Talk to
mine.
me.
Let me see. Let me see if I want to lend it to somebody else. Let me see if I want somebody else to have your time and have the investment that I have. And then when the hard times come, we have no credit to pull off of because we haven't spent the time that we promised to one another. Amen. One more, honey.
In every relationship, especially in the beginning, you are strangers coming from different places, different family dynamics, and will always have different opinions. No two people are perfectly alike. Therefore, every relationship takes reasoning and honest collaboration and a willingness to be open-minded. Maintaining an open mind and honest communication always allow the couples to validate and respect each other's differences of opinion and offer a willingness to really work on the situations.
Absolutely. You know, Pastor Flowers, I think what happens is that when our minds are closed and things are being said that we don't like, we close the door that maybe what they're saying may be valid and maybe a good part that we need that needs to be played in what we do and how we function from whatever place that we're starting at to another. And stop a closed-minded person will be a person that you'll never be able to reason with. And that's why sometimes we wonder. We've heard so many times where a wife will come in and say, I try to talk to my husband, but he doesn't want to talk to me because sometimes his mind is closed. He doesn't want to go any further than where he's at. He's settled where he's at.
Yeah.
Sometimes women can do this too.
Settle, and no matter what you say, it's like that's it.
Absolutely, and they don't want to move.
I'm not moving from there. Another thing that the paragraphs talked about was the different family dynamics. We have to realize even in the dating stage that we're getting to know somebody whose family did not react the same way your family did.
Absolutely.
Who grew up in different ways than your
Yes.
family did. So we have to somehow be able to mesh those two
Absolutely.
backgrounds together.
Absolutely.
Because we came from different
Absolutely.
backgrounds. And you have to be willing
Absolutely.
and loving and not name calling. Oh, y'all was stupid. Y'all was this. Y'all. Oh man, y'all were dysfunctional. Y'all. Oh man, I couldn't have lived in it. That's not helping the situation. You have to be willing to. No, I did not. No, you have to be willing to work.
Trying to say my family is dysfunctional.
No, I never said that.
Oh, speak, Lord. Go ahead.
You have to be willing to work with the dynamics that they came from.
Absolutely.
And if they came, how some people say you marry up. If they came from a situation or a family dynamic that wasn't as high, so to speak, as you thought your family was, you have to be able to work with them.
Absolutely.
Because they may look at you and think, well, they were uppity. Where you thought you was a little bit higher up. She may be thinking that, well, they're uppity. So you got to be able to work through those different dynamics that you marry into.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to say this, a couple of things before we get ready to wind this up.
Wow, time's up.
Time it moved fast. But we got to. Tonight, I kind of rushed myself. I did, y'all, and I apologize because there's things that was running through my mind and I wanted to hurry up and get it out. And sometimes when you rush yourself, it doesn't get out to the point that you wanted to get out. So I'm disciplining myself that I'm not going to do that because I think it's important for us to communicate what God has given us so that just as much as it is we desire for you and your relationships to have smooth communication where everybody can benefit from what's being said. We feel the same way. And sometimes, we can always, we don't finish on this night, we finish on the next program that we're in. But one of the things I do want to communicate, if I could sum this up, what we talked about into this point is this. Relationships are really serious. And it involves people who are healthy and honest, not just with the person that you're in a relationship with, but you're healthy and honest with yourself. The worst person that you can go in a relationship with is one who lies to themselves.
Yes.
Who convinces themselves that I may not be and listen to this religious phrase, I may not be what I need to be, but if I can get somebody in my life, I know I can be all I need to be to them. Well, how can you be something to someone that you can't be to yourself? If you can't care for yourself, if you can't nurture yourself, if you can't hand yourself off to someone feeling safe and feeling whole about what you're handing off, how can you treat them with that wholeness that you don't own when you hand yourself off? Secondly, unless Jesus come back, there's time for you to walk down an altar. You don't have to rush down that altar. You can rush down the altar and end up tripping over your own issues. You need to take the time that you need to take so that when you walk down that altar, you won't have legitimate questions about if you can make it.
That's right.
If I can hold on to this. Now, we all go through some struggles. Pastor Flowers and I was talking about when we first met. We thought to ourselves, and I knew I found the one that God had for me. She knew that the one that found her was the one that God had for her. But even in that, and some things that we were immature, some things that we had to deal with, we wondered to ourselves, man, can we do this? We even asked God, can we do this?
Yeah.
But we could answer because of what God had done in us, that yes, we could do this. With God, we can do this.
God, we can do it.
We can do this. But you can't answer that question walking down the aisle if God has never been able to have his hands on you to develop you into the spouse that he wants you to be towards one another. If you can't do that and you can't answer that completely, then you need to turn around before you get to the altar in your mind and say, God, you need to work on me more. Because we've said this, you deserve to be happy, but so does the person that you marry.
Mm-hmm.
You deserve someone that's going to love you, that's going to be patient with you, that's going to minister to you, that can reason with you, that can collaborate with you, but so does that other person.
Yes.
Everything
you need, they need
absolutely,
too.
yes. You need somebody that's going to come honestly with everything that, and someone wrote down there earlier and stuff, you need to be able to be a good steward over everything that you say God has given you. Not just your finances, but the heart and mind of the person that God has given you. Yes. And one of the worst things, and we said this one time in the teaching, I keep referring back to, listen, God doesn't send a man to get a daughter to bring him to a place and then crush her and make her have to run back to her dad to be healthy.
Yes.
And God doesn't send a man to find a wife and then she beats him to a boy that has to run back to her mother.
I like that, what you said. You get him as a man, but you beat him down as a boy.
Absolutely. All because you wasn't healthy enough to submit yourself to a husband man. But only thing you knew was just the battle and stuff. It's time for us in the body of Christ to be honest about some things. And I'm getting ready to close out in just a second. And the first thing we need to be honest about is that I can't be in love with just the idea of being in love. Yeah. I have to be in love with the process of God that makes me lovable. If I'm submitted to the process that makes me lovable, I can be healthy in a relationship even when it's being challenged. Yeah. I can be as a single. Pastor Flowers, she was single. She wanted a husband. I wanted a wife when I was single. She almost tore the building down when she first saw me. But come on, don't worry about it. We and stuff. But she wanted a husband. But here's the thing, and I always thought this. She could never be the best wife she could be, and neither me be the best husband that I could be, if God couldn't make me that on the way to that altar.
That's right. That's what he told me.
He said, he who findeth a wife. He didn't say he who findeth a woman. He said, he who findeth a wife findeth a good thing.
It's a difference.
So if you can't identify with a wife before you say I do, you're not ready. If you can't identify what makes you as a husband finding a wife before you say I do, you are not ready. And it takes clean, pure, and honest effort to get ready for that, because you have to deal with you, and you dealing with you have to be handed to God for God to be able to do what he wants to do. Amen?
Amen.
Listen, God bless you. Marriages are fun.
They're fun.
Relationships are fun. Yeah, relationships are fun. My wife loves me.
Yeah.
I don't know. She just gets every time. Right now.
What about you loving me?
Yeah, let me finish doing. And I love her, but I gotta say this thing. When I fell in love with my wife and stuff, or when I really understood and discovered the kind of love I had for her, it was more than just what I saw, and I could identify it even when we were dysfunctional. I could identify, and that was the thing that helped me to get to a place of maturity, freedom, and deliverance, and understand what it means to not just be a father, but to be an example, to be a loving example of what it means to live in a house where everybody feels safe.
Wow, yes.
Not just physically, but emotionally safe. That when she came to me and stuff, and no matter how strange it may sound, and stuff, I could feel her pain. I may not understand it, but I could feel it. And when I felt it and not understand it, I wouldn't criticize her over what she felt just because I didn't understand, because I felt it. And if we're ever going to be healthy in our relationships and holding our relationships, you can't just seek to understand it. You got to seek to feel it.
Mm-hmm. And when I came to him, I didn't have to go through 5 days of fasting and praying.
No.
I didn't have to hold out the sepulcher. I didn't have to do all of those things in fear of him biting my head off.
Amen.
Because I came to him with the issue that wasn't on the table.
Amen. Amen. Listen, God bless you. We're going to be, our next broadcast is the 7th of next month. The 7th of next month, and this is February. 7th of March is our next broadcast here on Time and Environment. Listen, we thank God for you joining us. We do not take this lightly. We certainly appreciate God giving us the opportunity to come into your homes and into your lives, and to be able to speak to you. Mary, we love you. Thank you for joining us. Sharon Collins, we thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Yes, we do. We thank you. Y'all don't see in the background our daughter Tony, who encouraged us about coming on this program. We thank God for her. We thank God for all our children and our grandchildren. We have a grandson that sits and watches us, and he says, "How you doing, Mom and Papa?" So we're gonna say to Jacob, "How you doing, Jacob?" and stuff. "How you doing, Brother Keith Wangas Jr.? God bless you too."
Bless you.
And stuff. So listen, God bless you. Please share this with someone. Hopefully it's something that will bless you and has blessed you and will bless other people. But we're excited about what God's going to do. I want to say this before we go. On the 6th, the 2nd
of March.
2nd of March. On the 2nd of March in Fredericksburg, Maryland, we're going to have a all-day singles, single and engaged, or just a little bit married. All-day seminar.
Going to start at 10.
Start at 10.
We'll have first session is going to be 10 to 12. We're going to break for lunch, and then we're coming back from 1 to whenever. And it's going to be an all-day session, and it's going to be in Fredericksburg, Maryland.
Yes.
At New Life Family
Deliverance
Center. New
Yes.
Life Family Deliverance Center.
And you'll see a poster up.
Yes.
And we were going to do that. Then 2 weeks later, we're going to come back and we're going to do it for the married couples and stuff. We're going to put that up where married couples come in. Listen, we have a, what's it called, baby?
Connections therapy.
Connection therapy. That's awesome. You got to be a part of this. That's 2 weeks after the 2nd. 2 weeks later, we're going to have a all-day marriage relationship.
Ending with a connection therapy.
Ending with a connection therapy.
That will really, really bless your relationship.
Absolutely. And then 2 weeks later, 2 weeks after that, we come back with the singles. Now, my daughter said to us, we were in church announcing this, and my daughter said, "Well, we ain't going to do anything for singles." Well, we want to do things for singles, but we're asking singles to support it. All we ask you to come out, you'll be blessed by it. You will be blessed. I certainly will. You will be blessed by it. I guarantee you will. You have a chance to ask questions.
Yes.
You'll have a chance to get ministered to. Yes. You'll have a chance to deal with the things that you may have only dealt with by yourself. So these 2 things is a 6-week period, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and stuff. And you'll see the announcements. We're going to have it up on Facebook. We're going to put a poster up. But the first one is the 2nd of next month, starting at 10. It's on a Saturday. It's all day. All day. And we're going to teach, pray, ask questions and stuff, and just help you to
yes, give you the tools you need.
Absolutely. So, amen. Yes. So listen, no problem, Mary. Listen, God bless you. Amy, good to see you. Amy Wingate. Listen, God bless you. Thank you all for joining us. Again, please share this with someone. Hopefully it'll be a blessing to them. Share the information about the services that we're having and stuff as we put them up on posters as well. Listen, God bless you. Have an awesome night.
Don't forget to take a look at our books.
Oh, yes. Please go on Amazon.com and put our name in. You'll see our books that we have and stuff. And they'll be a blessing to you. I just believe that. Not because we wrote them, because God gave them to us. And when God gives you stuff, it's always a blessing. God bless you. Have a good night.